Toyota Motor Corporation has been criticized for its initial response to the consumer complaints of unintended acceleration in some of its vehicles. In a recent hearing before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, California State Representative Henry A. Waxman, chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, said Toyota had 3 responses to the consumer complaints. First, blame the driver. Second, blame the floor mat. Third, blame a sticky gas pedal. Toyota has now recalled more than 8 million vehicles worldwide for unintended acceleration, brake problems, and other issues. Is it too little too late, and have they damaged the brand loyalty? Courtney, what do you think? They're doing a lot of backpedaling these days.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But
no pun intended.
No pun intended. You know, I have a very good friend who's a Toyota dealer here in Portland, a very successful one. And last year alone, Toyota sold over 80 million cars worldwide. And out of that, you know, only this amount was, you know, actually recalled. So, I mean, it's really a small percentage considering. They also have very, very loyal, long-term customers that I just think, the way I look at it is, was Kobe Bryant's you know, his whole genre and his old...
Perhaps not the best analogy here.
I'm just saying, his brand wasn't damaged. This is what
I think it was.
Well, maybe it was, but I'm just saying he still has Nike endorsements. He still has all these things. I'm not saying that he didn't do the wrong thing or if he did, but... Well, and now we've got somebody new, not to get off the subject, but Tiger Woods, right? I mean, I just think he's going to go win a couple of Masters, and people are going to forget about it. I just think that, you know, I know that recently Toyota actually sent out to all of their dealers $30,000 to each dealer and said, take care of the customers for this inconvenience. I don't care if you buy them a pedicure, a manicure, cup of coffee, whatever it is, and that's what they did, and I think that that shows a lot about what they want to do for their customers.
Well, you can damage a brand very quickly, and I can tell you my grandfather used to work for the Packard Motor Company. And those were really, they were very good cars. What Toyota's problem is not that their quality is bad per se, it's that they have been deceptive about what they've been doing all along. That's what's killed them, and that's what Waxman is so upset about. And when you have a situation where you had this Tiffany brand, and I've owned Toyotas, I suspect everybody's owned a Toyota at one time or another. They are excellent vehicles. And yes, they can make a comeback, just like Tiger Woods can make a comeback, but they're going to go from 100% to 88%. They're never going to quite recover that. People in the back, particularly younger people, are going to remember things like this. I mean, you know, the Republican Party took a generation to get over Nixon. I mean, that was bad branding for them, you know. And so Toyota's going to have, and Al Young saved them, which is great.
Well, you know, actually, it strikingly reminds me of, since we're on sports, of them taking a couple pages out of the Detroit playbook in terms of, remember, Ford had a problem, Chevrolet had problems. Even Cadillac had problems when they got caught putting Chevrolet engines in Cadillac that people were paying. So one of the things that hurt Detroit the most was the fact that feeling that cars from outside of Oregon and outside of America were done better. And so there will be a little residual effect, but I doubt it's going to affect the habitual Toyota buyer because they liked the automobiles, they like what they come staffed with, and they just don't trust American automobiles yet. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but, you know, like we were talking about sports, and I came up with Kobe. You can say it was a bad analogy, but, I mean, the bottom line is...
it was an amusing analogy.
I know. No, but, you know, the bottom line is this is mechanical. This isn't a human problem, right? I mean, this is a mechanical problem. Now, granted, they started, you know, saying, well, it was this problem, and then it was that, and maybe they're backpedaling a little bit. But all cars are going to have certain things. That's why you have warranties. That's why you have all these things. I don't see why it's going to hurt them in the long run.
But here's what else came out, right? They developed a little kit to fix the accelerator when, in reality, they should replace the entire accelerator pedal, but they developed some little, fix it. A little piece of metal to fix it. And what's coming out now is that probably doesn't really fix the problem all the way, but it's a cheap way to go. So
maybe.
Then do you lose your trust?
And I think the proof is going to be in what happens after about 6 weeks out, maybe 2 months, and they'll have most of the Band-Aids in place if they're just Band-Aids. And to me, it's what happens 2 months out. Are they still having this problem with cars that have been actually dealt with? Or has it been a good fix? And how do they approach these people that have lost loved ones, had medical expenses, and that sort of thing? I think they'd be smart to come out now and say, we're going to cover these things in every instance, whether we're proven to be at fault or not.
Yeah,
and then we'll have to go to court and settle the major thing.
Yeah, Americans definitely like when somebody says, we're going to make it right.
Right. And follow through.
Exactly.
Okay, on that note, we have to get on to our next topic. Oregon voters recently passed Measures 66 and 67, which were supposed to prevent further layoffs in the public school system and fund public services. Since the measures became law, some local businesses have closed due to the retroactive taxes owed, and schools are still being asked to make cuts. Did the voters really know what they were voting for, and where did all of the money go?
I don't know where the money went. I didn't have anything.
Is it in your pocket?
No, it isn't.
It's in Jack's wallet.
I think that every time we have an election like this, there are multiple messages that you can pull out of what the voters are saying. I think the first message was, we're tired of the rich. We are going to get the rich. And, however microscopic proportion of revenue they're going to be able to pull from those people is beside the point. I think that there was an element of Massachusetts and the Kennedy election slopping over into this, except it was almost a reverse psychology. It was like, they're not doing anything, we've got a problem, and I can slough the problem off on somebody else. And I mean, I say this as not a conservative person. I mean, I think it's a very easy fix. My biggest concern about state government right now is that it is a duct tape, situation where they're not dealing with really any of the major problems. They've got revenue forecasts going out, a couple of bienniums that may not hold up. I mean, it could get worse. I mean, in the Great Depression, there was just a catastrophic drop, and then there was another recession in 1938, 37 and 38, that was almost as bad as the first one. And so they can make all these assumptions about what's going to happen, and we still don't have a stable education system set up. We don't have a sales tax. We don't have, any sort of reliable revenue fund source for higher ed. You have multiple problems that are not being addressed by both parties in the legislature, and it's irresponsible. And I say that and I'm sure you went through this 1 billion times down there.
Oh, I agree. It's kind of like the Red and Green show, if everybody ever saw that. They fixed everything with duct tape and nothing ever worked. I'm of the conviction that we're going to end up in a worse shape than California is in terms of their budget shortfalls and then having no services. They're giving out, I know a number of educators in California, they're giving out IOUs again, but they're not calling them IOUs. People are getting laid off for every Friday, 2 or 3 Fridays a month or a quarter or whatever, and they're just getting furloughed.
Well, parenthetically, there's a structural issue involved as well. I mean, you have the legislature making decisions, and they are able to refer, hard issues back to the voters, which they did at 66 and 67. And you have initiative and referendum where all these people who essentially, a lot of them are essentially making their living off of this, can jump into the fray and completely short-circuit the legislature. And I think Oregon has to decide whether we're going to be on a 1902 model of initiative and referendum, or we're going to have a full-time professional legislature that makes the decisions and takes the responsibility.
Well, what's wrong with priority budgeting? Like, 18 other states in the states have priority budgeting. And when they came up with these measures, 66 and 67, they said, you said it was a populist movement of sorts, and kind of like go after the rich. But then all of a sudden, it's like, all the teachers I talked to, they all had the same inkling, like, well, this is going to make sure that I keep my job, or this is going to make sure that we are still here to educate your family. And basically, now they're realizing that that wasn't the case, and I don't know if they feel lied to. I would. I mean,
well, this was their last resort, and I think a lot of voters saw this as a last resort. Wow, we don't want to have the catastrophe. And I think that a lot of time, I mean, you remember in the Kitzhaber administration, I think a lot of times these guys and other administrations said, wait till the crash. Wait till it crashes, then the voters will wake up. Yeah. And we've had crash after crash after crash, starting with Measure 5 in 1990, and going forward, here we are 20 years later, crash, 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 and nothing really gets